Welcome to DECODE. Today we're going to do a different type of episode. This is going to be almost like live streaming because I'm going to be reacting and I'm going to be taking you guys on a visit to the brand new Grand Egyptian Museum. This museum opened kind of like a week ago, so this is actually a world premiere, and I was actually lucky enough to be able to get tickets for the first week. And so here I am about to enter the museum, and you're going to experience the museum in real time with me because again, I'm gonna just be streaming. I'm not gonna be stopping the recording if I can, and I'm just gonna be walking you through the highlights of this museum, a little bit of the history behind it, and you know what makes it so special. If you have been to Egypt, you know that there was an old museum in Tahrir Square, which was the traditional Egyptian museum for antiques. And the problem of that museum, of course, as many of these type of museums, like the British Museum in London or the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, is that it began showing its age. And so many years ago, there was the idea to build a new museum, actually in the Giza plateau, nearby the pyramids. And that's the dream of the Grand Egyptian Museum. This museum was stopped for many years for funding reasons, and then for COVID, and then for the Palestine situation, and one thing led to another. But then after a lot of delays, it opened up last year. And so now all of us fans of Egyptology can enjoy kind of like the best museum in the world when it comes to Egyptian antiques. Word of warning, I'm not an expert in Egyptology. I'm a fan, I'm a fan like many of you guys. I love Egyptology. So I'm gonna be guiding you through the highlights of the museum. I'm gonna tell you what I like less, and I'm gonna give some guidelines in terms of visiting. But again, don't expect this to be kind of like a PhD level dissertation about Egyptology, because that's not me, okay? I don't have those skills. So we entered through one of the sites. I'm not liking this. This kind of like, this is a little like I'm guessing the commercial side of things, coffee shops and stuff, unless that's actually the tomb of Pharaoh Starbucks. I'm guessing that's a coffee shop. So yeah, a little bit underwhelming to enter through this side. I'm sure it's prettier if you enter through the other side. But anyway, let's keep going, because I think we're arriving kind of like to the main hall, which is the one maybe you've seen in photos. And it's kind of like the typical hub where people can access the different areas of the museum. Ahead of us there, you can see the grand staircase, which is actually what gives access to the galleries. Wow. Ooh. Wow. Okay, the sun is really hurting my eyes now because it's coming from the side, but we're gonna enter the main hall. It's really beautiful.
Abbiamo trovato solo due.
Let me just come this way. And here we are on the main hall. And I have to say, guys, I love it. Look at this. It's a combination of the sheer size and the structure of this. It's really beautiful. I love the sandy color, those golden accents over there, and the way light filters from the outside to the inside. It's really, really, really cool. I think the main entrance is through that side. I enter from one different side. But yeah, the entrance from that side. And again, from here, you get the grand staircase here that takes you to the exhibition halls. Lots of Egyptian flags today. Again, remember, this is a source of national pride for Egypt because it just opened, literally. And it's, an endeavor of a humongous size for a country like this. Here you can see one of the colossi, and there's many. And actually, there's more there as we begin going into the galleries. So let's go in. Again, I'm not gonna make a super long video, but let's go in together. Let's see what we find. To me, the code is about exploring the world, and exploring the world can either mean speaking about, the boring parts of the world, or it means also discovering the interesting parts of the world, such as this museum that just opened. Okay, yeah, I see there's one of these portable conveyors of people. so to say. That's a good idea because it makes it very accessible. So let's go up. I'm here in Egypt in a stopover. I've mentioned before that I work actually across many different cities, and among them Barcelona and Mumbai, India. And so if you look at a map of Barcelona and Mumbai, Cairo is actually right in between. So it was my stopover on my way back home. So, you know, I found a good flight and I said, hey, you know what? Because the GEM has just opened, let's go check it out. And I was lucky enough to actually be able to get tickets for it because there's a limited supply of tickets every day. And so here I am. I'm actually staying in Cairo for 2 days only. This time, I've been to Cairo before. This is my third trip to Egypt. I was here for the first time 25 years ago when I was way younger and my hair was not so white. I have to say I'm not a huge fan of this staircase. Sure, it's very monumental and it's, in that respect it's great. But also, I don't know, I mean, this idea of putting works in the staircase makes it a little bit hard to navigate because typically a staircase is not to go up and to go down. But then if you put things in the middle, people are going to cluster around those things and it's going to make walking a little bit hard. Sure, they've done this conveyor and that's a good idea. But I don't know how useful these staircases are going to be. But again, you know that in the current day and age, museums are on one side, of course, an exhibition space, but also they are kind of like Instagram and taking photos and yada yada. And so in that respect, this is actually very pretty. Very well done. If I get it correctly, the funding for this museum was actually international endeavor. It was not only Egypt, but I think it was UNESCO actually funding part of it. And it doesn't surprise me because again, you know, Egypt has so many World Heritage sites that this does make a lot of sense. Still going up on this conveyor. I can sing and I can tell jokes because this is going to take a little bit longer. But again, you're seeing this as I see it. So this is kind of like a reaction kind of video, you know what? There's a conveyor also to go down. And you know what, because this is so slow, I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna walk a little bit. Exercise is good. So let's just go in and use the stairs the way they're supposed to be used, which is walking. I love the lighting, very nice work. And of course, if you are really into Egyptology, I'm sure you can spend here countless hours. There's just so much to see. For me, this is just the first visit because again, the museum just opened. But yeah, my first impression is really positive. Let me just keep going up. One more flight of stairs. We're almost there. You know, let's keep going. One thing that surprises me in a good way is that I'm seeing that a vast majority of the people are actually Egyptians. Maybe there's 10% Westerners and all the rest is actually locals. It does make a lot of sense because again, this is brand new. So I'm guessing the population of Egypt is now discovering and feeling proud of their own museum. And that's great. But again, not so many Westerners, such as Egyptians. Oh, check it out. You don't see it because of the bloom, but look into the distance and you'll see a thing of beauty. Coming up in 3, 2, 1. And go. Nice. The pyramids are right across the road. Let's go. So this is the main gallery. Again, you go up the staircase and you make a left. The gallery is divided by rooms, but those rooms are massive, okay? So this building, in terms of museum space, is many times larger than the old one in Tahrir Square. Wow. You see? Look at the size of this. Oh, look, the pyramids. If you want to see them better, we come this way and you get kind of like a nice viewpoint. I can see two and the third one, yeah, and the third one right there in small size. So you see? There's the pyramids over there. Okay, so let's go see the museum itself. Again, the main benefit of this museum, as I said, is it has, well, actually two benefits. One of them is space. You know, it's huge compared to the old museum. And the second benefit is actually access. Access, because basically, because this is in the Giza Plateau, in terms of coming here with tourists and groups, it's much easier than in Tahrir Square, which is very hard to access. As you can see, the museum is structured in 12 galleries. Each one much bigger than what we had before. So look at the sheer size of this. Amazing, right? Can I just move so you can see it better? Look at the size of this gallery. And this is and this is just one of the rooms. And there's 12 like this. So again, huge exhibition space. I'm just gonna walk through. I mean, I'm not gonna stop that much. Reason being that I don't want to take, you know, one day of your time. I want to do kind of like a video that gives kind of like a nice overview of the new museum. But again, the first thing I noticed, I've been to many of these museums before, you know, like the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, the Archaeology Museum in Athens, in Greece, you know, British Museum, of course, and the ones in Spain, is that because it's brand new, the space is actually really broad. Look at this, you know, in terms of space. This looks, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it reminds me a little bit of an airport. You know, airports, they're designed to be very spacious because they need to accommodate a lot of people, you know, whereas old history museums or natural history museums, such as the one in London, they're usually, you know, 19th century things with a very, very different structure. So again, this is super spacious, amazing way to actually enjoy the artifacts, you know, on display. Of course, again, I'm not a pro of Egyptology, but here you can see, for example, this mural here, and you could spend hours looking at this if you are really into this, because, you know, there's this sense of peace and space. Look at this. So beautiful. Another thing that I was very happy to see, not surprised because I expected this, but again, one thing I was happy to see is that the museum is very accessible. Accessible meaning, you know, that, yeah, sure, there's stairs everywhere, but of course here you have ramps. So whatever is your mobility situation, this museum is for you. In this case, I'm walking down ramp now, and yeah, it's very, very accessible. My only complaint so far is that in terms, I'm very into user interfaces and experience design, so the signals are not amazing, in the sense that finding where are the bathrooms is a little bit of a nightmare, you know. But you know, I'm sure they'll get there and put big signs saying bathroom here. You know, it was hard for me to actually figure out where is the bathroom. You know, but again, the exhibition space is really nice. Again, 12 galleries. I'm trying to get to gallery number 7 because that's King Tut. Okay, the treasure of the burial of King Tut, which I really want to check out and I really want to share with you guys, kind of like as a highlight of the museum. But you know, it's amazing. Looks, for example, of that, you know, coffin. One thing that has always fascinated me about Egyptians is the care. You know, the infinite detail that they put in everything they did. You know, which I haven't seen in other civilizations. Sure, the Romans and the Aztecs and all of that, they did amazing stuff. But in terms of attention to detail, Egyptians are kind of like the kings. It's really mind-blowing. You know, of course, they did this only for their kings, not for their commoners. But still, it's really, really something to really, you know, watch. So I'm gonna be walking across. That's gallery number 5 ahead of us. Trying to get the number 7, which is that way, I'm quite sure. And that will take us to the King Tut exhibition, which for sure I want to share with you guys. The old King Tut exhibition at Tahrir Square, it was really cool because actually the items themselves, they speak for themselves. It's amazing. But it was very cramped because again, the space is what it is, you know. And so I've heard this one is much better in terms of exhibition space and in terms of how clear is it for you to understand everything. So let's go. Again, more exhibition space, absolutely worthy of a full day visit. As soon as I'm done with this video, of course, I'm going to spend the rest of my day here enjoying this for a personal visit. I'm really into Egyptology. So let's go to King Tut. I'm guessing it's this way. Again, remember, if you guys are lucky to come over soon, remember that's gallery number 7 for you. Okay. So we go across. You see, there's bathrooms here, but yeah, you see it here. But from far away, there's no sign saying, "Oh, the bathroom is here," kind of like in an airport, and that's something they should think about. Okay, so here we go. They're telling people not to run. This is the grand staircase that you saw before as I was coming up. And so now we enter the King Tut exhibition. And honestly, it always makes my eyes wet. Because it's, you know, it's the, you need to, oh, wow. Okie dokie, I'm speechless. So I'm gonna show you the highlights. Okay, if you remember, the thing about King Tut's tomb is that it was found intact, you know, in the Valley of the Kings, which is very close to a city called Luxor. You know, there was all the tombs of the pharaohs there, but the problem is most of them had been scavenged in the ancient times by, you know, thieves, and so most of the tombs were empty. But then comes Howard Carter, and funded by Lord Carnarvon. Actually, he had the suspicion that there was one more tomb to be found, and yeah, one day actually moving piles of rubble, he found a ladder, you know, a step, you know, and of course after that step came another step, and then another step, and then a descending staircase that actually took him to a door, and then that door he saw a seal, and that seal was the seal of a pharaoh, and actually the seal had a knot, you know, with rope, so that he could see that that tomb had never been opened. And so of course then he was completely convinced that he had found what was kind of like the holy grail of Egyptology, which is an untouched tomb. The tomb in this case of King Tut, a pharaoh who died young at the age of 18 or 19. There's different theories of why he died, an accident, some disease, or even murdered. But basically, King Tut is not one of the main pharaohs of Egypt. That would be, for example, Thutmose III or even Ramesses II. But the thing is, when we found the tomb of King Tut and we see what it contained, we can actually extrapolate how the other tombs look like when they were untouched. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. So I'm going to show you the main highlights, which are here, and I'm going to react as we see them. So again, for the afterlife, the king had to have all his goods. And so one of the things he needed was hunting chariots to go hunting in the afterlife. So this was actually folded, and this was found inside the tomb. And look at the detail and the craft. So beautiful. And of course, bows and arrows and quivers for hunting, because the king was a hunter. You know, actually, one of my favorite artifacts is actually this chest, which is King Tut's hunting chest. Look at this. This is what I was saying before about the work, the craftsmanship. You know, the paint. Remember, this item is, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 years old, which is really mind-blowing. And again, all this is kind of like his hunting gear for the king. And of course, for warfare, such as shields, as we can see here. Here we have more like items for the home life of the king. Let's see if I can enter. You know, like furniture, basically made typically out of wood, in some cases alabaster. One of the things they found on the tomb was actually beds for the king. They found several of them. So again, it's kind of like a full set of items for the afterlife, such as shoes, for example, you know, sandals. Not so different from our Hawaiian flip-flops. You know, clothing. This is actually underwear. This piece of linen is actually underwear, and tunics and whatnot. Jewelry. I've always been a fan of Egyptian jewelry because it looks so modern sometimes. You know, sure, this is ancient, but it's not so different from the kind of stuff we wear today. More jewelry. But now let's move on to the main course. So this is the part that actually always gets me emotional. So remember, if you remember the story, and if not, I will remind you, King Tut, when they opened the chamber, so there was several chambers. There was 3 or 4 chambers full of items, such as, you know, vessels and all that kind of stuff. And then they found the chamber, the burial chamber. And inside the chamber, there were concentric coffins. So what I mean by that is I'm going to show them to you one by one. We all have seen, you know, the burial mask of King Tut, which covered his mummy. But you need to be aware that that mummy was actually inside a coffin, and that coffin was inside another coffin, and another coffin, and another coffin. So there was actually 8 coffins, one after another, from the biggest one to the smallest one. And actually the biggest one, which is this one we have in front of us, is almost the same size as the room it contains. So somehow they assembled it inside. But you know those Russian dolls that actually one is inside the other? So this is the same structure here. So starting from here, we have the first coffin. In this case, this is called a shrine or a chapel. You know, so this is the outer chapel of King Tut's burial chamber. This is the one that Carter found closed and with a tight knot. So he thought, oh my God, I found something amazing. I found an intact tomb from Egypt. I'm gonna show you inside so you can see. As you can see, it's empty. And it's empty because it's not supposed to contain anything. It's just supposed to contain the next shrine, which is this one. I'm turning around here. This second shrine was inside the first one. This one is amazing because of the work here on the sides of these winged creatures. Let me zoom a little bit. So beautiful. See? If you look hard enough, you're going to encounter the seal of the pharaoh. Remember, every pharaoh had a seal called the cartouche. And that over there, I think, is the cartouche of King Tut. So let's keep going in our journey. That's the second shrine. From the second, we move to the third, which is this one here. As you can see, they fit inside each other a little bit like a game of Tetris, you know? And so inside the third one, you could actually see the fourth, which is this one. By the way, these are all made of wood. Okay, it's all wood, painted with gold. Okay? And then once you go inside the fourth shrine, then we begin with the coffins themselves. So here's the first coffin of King Tut, the outer coffin. Now you're going to see items which most likely you've seen before in history books or in TV shows. These items are extremely famous. And again, the way they're showcasing this here in this museum is amazing. You see, it's a whole, a big hall in a sequential manner, so you can enjoy these items, you know, really, really well. Much better than in the old museum. Much, much better. So now we move to the second coffin of King Tut, a little bit smaller, so it can fit inside the first one. So again, think about this. If they did this for a pharaoh which was not that well known, or not that important, imagine what they did for the main ones. And now we go to the third coffin. Again, up to now we've seen 7 layers. That's the inner coffin of King Tut. And then after this last coffin was actually the mummy of King Tut. I would love to show it to you, but I've been told before by a guard here that it's not on display. Because again, the museum is so new, some items are still not here, such as the actual tomb of King Tut. But then inside that there was the mummy, and the mummy was wearing a burial mask from the chest up, which is the main item from the King Tut treasure that I'm sure you've seen before. And it's over here upstairs. And to me, that's kind of like of course, the biggest highlight of this museum, and most likely one of the most famous items in the world when it comes to ancient history. There it is. We are starting from the back, so I'm gonna move to the front.
That chapel.
Of course, it's crowded. It is what it is. Everybody wants to see it.
Go left.
Here's King Tut's mask. Amazing. Let me try to find a good vantage point. This room feels too crowded, but again, this is like when you go to see the Mona Lisa, everybody wants to see it, and of course it is what it is. And now we move on. This is all the jewelry. Remember King Tut, his body was actually covered in jewelry and amulets. I'm gonna try to find the main one, which was on the chest, and it's this one, I believe. Yeah, I think it's this one. It's a classic. Again, to me, Egyptian jewelry feels old and it feels modern at the same time. And that's really amazing. We can keep going. And actually up here, oh here, this is interesting. Here you can see the way he looked. You see, so it was the mummy covered in linen. Inside that there was the burial mask and covered with all the amulets and jewelry, which were for protection in the afterlife. I'm gonna show you one last item. I hope you're enjoying this video. This is kind of like the closest I'm gonna go to actually becoming a streamer. I'll never be a streamer, but this is my best attempt. One of the items on King Tut burial was actually his throne, which is right here, and it's very beautiful. Again, made of wood, but with amazing gold inlays. Look at that. I think the Grand Egyptian Museum has done an amazing job with lighting. The items are very well lit, so that you can enjoy them as they deserve. Amazing. Really, really beautiful. And so I'm going to show you one more thing only before we leave the museum. The Grand Egyptian Museum, of course, holds all the treasures of Egyptology, and one of them is actually outside the museum in an annex building, and I'm going to show you now. Because again, this used to be in a different place, but now they've put everything together, and it's really, really cool. Let me show you. We go back to this kind of like travelator kind of thing. So we go down.
We would have spent beer time down. Yeah. What time did we get? 2.5 hours.
I'm gonna fast forward now so that you don't get bored. So as you come down from the travelator, make a left. So go across this thing, make a left. Sorry, now I'm going to look really weird because I'm blinded by the sun. But actually in front of us, there's an annex building. And I want you guys to go there. Because actually, well, that's actually proper to be blinded by the sun. Because this building contains the solar barge or the solar boat of King Khufu. If you've been to Egypt before, you know the story. This is a boat that was found actually in 1954 nearby the Great Pyramid of King Khufu or King Cheops. And basically it's called the solar barge because there was this cosmology in ancient Egypt that, you know, the gods actually crossed the day and into the night like a river in a boat, and that's why there's this idea of the solar boat. Solar boats, there's always been the question among the community of archaeologists if they were like only for ceremony, like, you know, part of the burial gifts for a king, or if they were actually used for navigation. And in the case of the one we're going to see, there's actually this idea that it was actually used on the river. So the entrance is that way, I have been told. So we just follow the crowds. Again, today is actually quite crowded because it just opened. I'm hoping it's going to get more mellow soon. And, you know, we're going to be able to enjoy this museum as it deserves. This solar barge is 43 meters long, so that's actually quite big. And it's made of cedar wood, cedar from Lebanon, which is actually a very good wood for boats. Let's go in. So entrance is this way. Okay, I didn't see the boat. There's one here, but that's metallic, so I'm guessing this is just kind of like a nothing. Let me see. Ah, it's over there. It's on this side. And with you, the solar barge of King Cheops. I'm not a fan of this room. There's no space to see it properly. But, you know, let's walk up. This is how it looks like. And there's this kind of like spiral staircase to go up. And those are photos there. There's an exhibit about when they found it. You know? Let me just go up. In terms of coming to Egypt, again, at least on my experience, Egypt is a safe country. For us in Europe, the access is actually quite easy. It's kind of like a mid-distance. It's not as far as, you know, traveling, you know, to another continent, but it's not really, really close. It's actually quite inexpensive as a country. And if you want to go check it out, the pyramids and the GEM, I'm staying in a very classic hotel called the Mena House. The Mena House, it's a classic hotel and it has the advantage of being closest to the pyramids. You can actually walk to the pyramids, you know. And the Mena House, it used to be an independent hotel. It used to be actually a palace back in the day. Now it's a hotel owned by Marriott, so it's from the Marriott chain. So you guys watching me from the States, yeah, you can expect the same level of service and comfort of a, you know, high-end Marriott, so to say. So it's good. And again, it's within a walking distance of the pyramid complex, so it's really convenient. Oh, look at that. Egypt requires visa, but the visa is actually done on arrival. So as you arrive to the airport, you no need to do a visa ahead of time. You arrive to the airport, and then you have to carry per person $25. I'm not joking, because this is paid in dollars or in euros. And then basically, as you leave the plane, you're gonna see small outlets of banks, And those banks that they actually do sell a stamp. Okay, that stamp is silver colored, and it's a stamp that you need to put on your passport. Okay, and that's the visa on arrival. Okay, so no need to do visa, it's very, very easy. And then in terms of Western comforts, all I can say is that I'm traveling here using Uber all the time. Uber's perfect. Typically Uber drivers speak decent English, basic but decent, And so yeah, it's not a complicated trip to set up. Of course, as in any Muslim country, you need to be careful in terms of dressing modestly. But again, similar to the UAE or these kind of countries, they're kind of like the same. Okay, here we can see the solar boat in all its glory. I have to say I'm not a huge fan of this room design. Too many pillars and too many, walkways that make seeing the barge not as exciting as it should be. I think this needs more space. But it is what it is. So let's see it from the front. So that's the bow there, and the stern is actually that way, and we actually can see there the rudder. So yeah, from here you can get a very good overall perspective of the size of the thing. It's really big, 43 meters. And again, there's suspicion that this one actually was used for sailing, not only for, ceremonial purposes. I'm gonna try to go up because I'm seeing there a place I can go up and get a better viewpoint. So I'm gonna try to get the best possible view. And again, here in Egypt, the only thing you need to be aware, as in many of these countries, is be careful with the food. Make sure everything is cooked, And because I'm working in India, I can give you some extreme advice that I apply to India. That also is a good advice for Egypt, which is one of the most dangerous things in these countries. Well, hold on. Let's first focus on the boat. Wow, beautiful, right? Again, this is a very different Decode video. Usually we talk about the modern world and science and technology and that kind of stuff. But I thought because the GEM is so new, that was a worthy topic for the Decode community. So back to what I was saying, a safety measure for these countries, and one of the things I always do is be very careful with the ice. And I know it sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke. Typically when you get water, sure, the water is bottled, but basically the ice they put on your drinks, such as a Coke or water or whatever it is, that ice is going to be made with tap water. And remember, bacteria and germs, they do survive in ice, many of them. So yeah, when you do ice, basically what you're doing is you're preserving bacteria, so that when they put that ice cup in your drink, that is how disease comes. Okay, so be careful with the ice. Request drinks with no ice. Put them in a cooler, in a freezer, so that they're cold, but don't add ice to your drinks. Okay, that's kind of like one of the main sources of risk in these countries. So again, this is going to complete a little bit my kind of like streaming or my reaction to the Grand Egyptian Museum. Honestly, amazing place. Now I'm gonna turn off the camera in a few minutes, and I'm just going to enjoy it for myself at my own pace. I love it. I think, of course, as in many new things, there's always quirks and things that they need to fix. One of them, as I said, is the signs for the bathrooms and stuff are not very clear, and the other one is the access. It's a shame because once you're inside, it's amazing. But I don't want to show you a video of how the entrance was this morning. It was just pure chaos. It was so chaotic that people were actually jumping the fence to actually enter inside because it was so overcrowded, In terms of entry points, that's something they need to address to make sure there's multiple entry points. I think a museum like this needs a structure to entry, kind of like a stadium, in a football stadium, that you can always enter through many doors to make sure, many gates, to make sure it's safe. So same thing here. At least the gate I chose this morning was absolutely overflowing with people to the point of being a bad idea, you know. I'm gonna wrap up by showing you kind of like the gift shop area, which is always interesting. I'm a gift shop junkie, so whenever I go to museums, I always go to the gift shops because you always encounter there things that are a little bit unique, a little bit different, and you know, it's always good to go there. And typically the sales on the gift shops or the museums, they go to the museum. So you know, you're doing a good job because you're earning more culture and at the same time you're supporting the museum. So let's go check out the gift shops here at the GEM. People are blinded by the light of Egypt. By the way, of course, in terms of safety, again, remember this, I work in India. So for me, safety, it means to really feel unsafe. And I've never felt unsafe in India. To me, India is perfectly safe. You know, Egypt, well, you know, I haven't been as much as to India. I know India better than I know Egypt. So far, it seems to me kind of like the same place in terms of security and safety. But, you know, it's always good, as usual, to, you know, exercise caution, as in, you know, don't show off too much money. Don't go out at night alone in a neighborhood that you don't feel kind of like comfortable. You know, just the usual stuff. You know, it's not about safety or unsafety. It's more about, you know, being reasonable. Oh, here's the gift shop. So let's go in. Ah, nice stuff. I'm a book junkie, so I always go for books. And also there's always, you know, cute stuff for loved ones and family and whatnot. Let's go for the book section. Here's the books. I don't have this one. And it looks interesting to me. So yeah, I think this one is going to be my gift for today. So again, I'm going to say bye here to you guys, my community here in DECODE. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed it. Again, today I want to do something different, bring a different type of content to my community, but the DECODE community is a community of people who are actually interested in interesting things, and to me this museum, again, is one of the cultural news of the year, so I thought it was worthy of a video since I was here anyway. So if you enjoyed this video, please post like, and down here below, you know, put your comments about it. Would you like me to do more of this kind of stuff? Because again, I travel a lot, and I can show you, aside from my usual videos about more like, you know, sociology and modern life, I can do more like this in India and, you know, many other countries, you know. And if you enjoyed this video, remember, we're growing as a community. DECODE in English now is over 3,500 subscribers, and that's amazing. I never expected to grow so fast. And honestly, my dream would be to reach 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you subscribe, you're gonna help us grow. And remember that YouTube gives visibility to channels depending on, you know, subscribers and likes and that kind of stuff. So basically you have the power to help this channel grow or to make it stay in the same size. So if you've enjoyed this video and you think, you know what, Danny does a good job explaining things, hey, why not subscribe? Remember, I post 2 videos every week, one every Tuesday, one every Friday. And, you know, by subscribing to DECODE, you're telling me that you like what I do and that you want to support it. Okay? I'm gonna close the video now, and I'm gonna go buy that book that you saw. And again, bye-bye from Egypt, from Cairo, from the Grand Egyptian Museum. I hope you enjoyed this video.